and thank you for tuning in to our virtual parent meeting for our gifted program here at Sandy Valley. My name is Kristen Woods, and I am one of our gifted intervention specialists at Sandy Valley. Marie Marcotti is our other gifted intervention specialist, and she will be sharing some things about our program during this presentation. Diane Opplinger is our gifted coordinator at Sandy Valley. She will be sharing some information specifically in regards to the gifted operating standards and identification process. The name of our gifted program at Sandy Valley is SOAR, and SOAR stands for Stimulating Minds, Ongoing Exploration, Achieving New Levels, and Rising to the Challenge.
As Kristen said, I'm Diane Opplinger from the Stark County Educational Service Center. My role in Sandy Valley is that of gifted coordinator, which means I bring the laws to the district to make sure that we are doing our very, very best to carry out those laws and provide the best education that we can to the gifted students of Sandy Valley. One of the things I would like to talk about are the laws or ODE rules and regulations that impact gifted students. The first one here you can see is the state definition. This is the one that's in the law. And basically it means students who perform or have the potential for performing at higher levels of accomplishment when they are compared to others of their age, experience, or grade level. One of the experts in giftedness in my lifetime has been Anne-Marie Roper. And you see her definition next, and it says, giftedness is a greater awareness, a greater sensitivity, and a greater ability to understand and transform perceptions into intellectual and emotional experiences. If you turn that into a little bit more common language, it's probably a little more what you're familiar with when you think of your student. One of the definitions that I like the best is that I just say gifted kids are like regular kids, but to the nth degree. If they are gifted in math, they're really good at math. If they are gifted in music, they're really good in music. If they are gifted in, and this is not something that we test, but we all know some of these students are perfectionists. If they are perfectionists, they are perfectionists to the nth degree. If they are messy to the nth degree. So that is my definition that I like to use for parents to understand their kids. And please don't think you're alone. If we were in a room together, you could look around the room right now and see parents shaking their heads and smiling, as this describes many of your children. So in Ohio, we have the gifted operating standards. The latest version was amended in 2018. And it says that districts must use standardized tests and checklists from a list that's approved by the Ohio Department of Education. And they have to be identified in these areas. Cognitive ability, which is sort of like an IQ, but not exactly the same. Achievement, those would be the subject areas of reading, language, math, science, and social studies. Creativity, and in the visual and performing arts, which would include instrumental and vocal music, art, drama, and dance. In Ohio, these assessments must be given whole grade once in grades K to 2, once in grades 3 to 6, in these areas: superior cognitive, math, reading, and creativity. The districts across Ohio are allowed to choose when they best think the assessment should be given. Sandy Valley has decided that the superior cognitive and creativity assessments are given in grades 2 and 5, and those will be given here very shortly in the next couple weeks. The achievement, math, and reading, math is given in grades 1 and 4, and that will be given, I guess winter, you would call that January, February-ish. Reading, we are now using, we've always used STAR, but now STAR is allowed to be used as an assessment for identification. And so that is given 3 times a year in grades 3 through 12. Scores can be used for identification for 2 years. However, once identified, always identified. In other words, if a child is identified in 2nd grade, and then they take that test again in 5th grade, and they don't score at the level that they need to be identified, we do not take them off the list. But if we're looking at a child, let's say a child moves into our district and their score is older than 2 years, we must reassess them. Also, please keep in mind, this is for Ohio. If you move in from Pennsylvania, or if you know someone in Florida, they may not have the same laws and regulations regarding gifted that we do. So we do have to compare, and we do have to use what we are told by ODE that we must use. Another element in the gifted operating standards is that every child who is served, not every child who is identified, but if we serve a child, which will be talked about in just in a few more minutes, they must have a written education plan. We call those WEPs. And no matter what grade level, if they are receiving service from either Mrs. Woods, Mrs. Marcoldi, or one of the regular classroom teachers that has been given extra professional development in gifted students and what gifted students need, they are counted as served. And we will send those WPs home usually around the first 9 weeks, the end of the first 9 weeks. We try to send them home in the grade cards. Hopefully that will happen. One other thing, this probably should have a big star in front of it, but Ohio does not say that gifted students have to be served. Ohio only says they have to be identified. Now, we all know that once they're identified, they should be served, but that doesn't always happen. But just so you know, in law, they just have to be identified. And so Ohio has also determined what can be counted as a service. As I said, it must be given by a gifted, trained individual, and that training can be through a college program, which Mrs. Woods and Mrs. Marcoldi both completed. It can be through professional development, which I give, they also give, but they have to have some kind of training in order to know what the gifted students need. The kinds of service, it can be clustering, which is where we have a group of gifted students in one classroom or setting. A resource room would be where they would all go together, maybe to Mrs. Woods's room, maybe to Mrs. Marcoldi's room. That would be similar to a pull-out. The resource room could also mean they're in that room all day long. Pull-out would be if we take them out of their math class, their regular math class, and they go into a different class where they have enriched math or something that meets their identification. And I should say that service only counts in the area in which they're identified. So if they're identified in math, but they're going to a high honors reading class, that does not count. It must match their identification. Acceleration is where the students actually, we would say in my day, skip a grade. It doesn't have to be the whole grade. Maybe it's just skipping ahead in math, but it is acceleration. They are moving quicker. Intervention specialists would be where a person would work with a child or a group of children. Differentiation we use a lot, and we see this even in the regular classroom, where if your child is very bright, they are doing different work. It doesn't mean more. It doesn't mean lots of more pages or problems, but the work is either more rigorous, more challenging, or enriched. Educational options we don't see so much in elementary, but these would be some of the things we see, especially in high school, where they could take college classes instead of high school classes, so they would be at a higher level. It might be advanced placement or AP classes. Some of those are considered educational options. Other service criteria would be, is the teacher using higher level questioning, so questioning techniques. Compacting. Compacting is where you take the material and you compact it together so they learn the new element or new idea very quickly, and then we can move ahead. Tiered assignments is if you have a class of a very wide range of ability, I might have harder, more rigorous work for the higher end, and maybe more basic work for the lower end, and something in the middle for the middle. Flexible grouping, we practice this a lot. When a student is ready for enrichment, whether they're gifted or not, we put them with the enrichment group. And if they don't need enrichment, then they're with the group that needs more formalized instruction. Independent study, we did this a lot last year with COVID and the pandemic. We had some students doing some independent projects while they were at home doing remote learning. Learning centers, you've seen those oftentimes, I think, in maybe kindergarten, but they can be used all the way up into 12th grade. It's just where you take the units, you take the pieces and parts of the unit and you break it apart into the learning centers. Those learning centers can be based on content, it can be based on style of learning, etc. But the students then move from center to center. Contracts, sometimes we use those with gifted students when they're maybe working ahead. Maybe they've shown an understanding of something, and so they don't need to have the day-to-day instruction. So they work on a contract to what they will do instead. So those are just some of the ways we might serve gifted students. But you see down here in big, bold type, being with other gifted and talented kids at some point helps socially, emotionally. And we feel very strongly about that. So we will be talking about that in the next few slides here. One other thing, you will have the option, if you would like, all these will be sent home with the new second grade served students, but we have a little booklet that's published by OAGC, which is the Ohio Association for Gifted Children, and it's a handbook for parents and guardians of gifted children. It gives some characteristics of gifted kids, some problems sometimes with gifted kids. It could be some good discussion starters. So at any point, if you want to contact the three of us, our emails will be at the end. Please feel free to do that. So next, Kristen is going to take it back up and talk about more of our services here at Sandy Valley.
Along with academic needs, gifted children also have a variety of social and emotional needs. While there are several different characteristics related to social emotional needs, gifted children may not exhibit all of them, but we have chosen to highlight 3 characteristics that we oftentimes see in gifted children that we work with here at Sandy Valley. The first one is perfectionism, and this simply means the kids strive to have everything they do be perfect. Other behaviors that we see as it relates to perfectionism is they are very slow to complete a task because they don't want to make a mistake. They ask lots of questions because they really want that reassurance and guidance. And they may often be very slow at making decisions because they fear failing. Being sensitive and empathetic is another characteristic that closely aligns with gifted children. Gifted children who exhibit this characteristic often get easily upset. They may feel things at a much deeper level, and they worry about others, what's going on around them, and what's happening in the world. The final characteristic that we've chosen to highlight this today is what we call the intensities. And this is when we take certain behaviors and they are oftentimes magnified times 10 for gifted children. The first one is intellectual intensity, and these are kids who are extremely curious and they're avid problem solvers. The imaginational intensity takes the shape of being extremely visual and very creative. These are oftentimes your very talented artists. And finally, the emotional intensity, which connects right back to the sensitive and empathetic characteristic. Children who exhibit an emotional intensity have very strong feelings. They may experience anxiety, and they have a heightened sense of right and wrong. They see things in black and white, and there's not much gray area. So at Sandy Valley, we strive to meet not only the academic needs of our children, but we also try to help them with their social emotional needs as well. And we do this in 3 different ways. First, we really try to build positive relationships that are built on trust with the children at the beginning of the school year. That helps set a real positive tone that will hopefully carry through the rest of the school year. Small group work is a second technique that we implement, and we try to get our gifted children working in small groups so that they're alongside other kids that are similar academic or intellectual ability, but also they're working with children who may exhibit similar social and emotional needs to them. Finally, breakfast bunch meetings is a time where we meet with kids periodically and we do different lessons and activities and discussions that helps them understand their social and emotional needs and helps us help them learn strategies to handle their heightened social and emotional needs when they may recognize them throughout their school day and throughout the school year.
We service the gifted students in both ELA and math. For ELA, we do co-teaching and small group pull-out. This can vary day to day depending on the needs of the students. For math, we also do co-teaching and small group pull-out. However, when they get into 5th grade, we have an accelerated math class where they will advance to 6th grade math. For grades 2nd through 4th, a typical math block will begin with a mini lesson, which is followed by a problem set. In the problem set, we assign the most difficult problems first. If they are successful with the most difficult problems, we know they understand the skill. We can move on and give them enrichment activities and projects that extends their learning with standards that are being taught. We also weave in stretch lessons throughout the enrichment activities and projects. Some of the enrichment strategies are listed here. We use the district-adopted curriculum called Engage New York, or Eureka Math. We use pre-assessments to determine if the student has already mastered the skill and can go straight to enrichment or needs to stay for the mini lesson. We also use the most difficult problems first so students can quickly prove they have mastered the skill and can move on to enrichment activities. For enrichment and extension activities, we used stretch lessons, which we determined through STAR, multi-step problem solving, real-world application activities, and short-term math projects.
As Maria had mentioned, we provide gifted services for our gifted population in both math and or reading. So this gives an overview of a typical 2nd through 5th grade English language arts block during the day. Class usually starts off with reading a select text from our Ready Gen curriculum. From there, we move into discussion questions. And for our gifted population, we really aim to incorporate higher level questions that require them to think deeply about what they've read. After our reading and discussion, we typically move into small group work, and this takes the form of either centers or book clubs. And then finally, we move into the writing block where we will do a mini lesson with the kids on a specific writing focus. And then the kids will have independent writing time and then conferencing opportunities so that we can monitor their progress, set goals with them, and then challenge them to take their writing to the next level. In this chart, you'll see some specifics as it relates to our language arts gifted program here at Sandy Valley. As I said, we do use the Ready Gen curriculum in each of our grade levels, but we use it in a way so it has leveled application in order to help stretch and reach our higher level learners. During core instruction, we focus on reading and writing, both whole group and small group, and we incorporate a lot of questioning and discussion into those blocks of time. Centers is where we tie in a lot of choice for the kids, and we also try to implement creativity opportunities through their writing, choice through their reading, creativity through maybe some of their skill application, and some higher level vocabulary activities, as well as technology opportunities. Book clubs is another enrichment avenue that we like to use at Sandy Valley, and that's where small groups of kids are reading a chapter book on a certain genre, and then throughout their book club time, they are discussing what they're reading, they're responding to higher level questions, completing a variety of activities that relate to the book that they're working through. And oftentimes with book clubs, we utilize a lot of different discussion formats like debates. We use literature circles where kids complete certain roles and then you bring it to their literature circles to discuss what they read. We use Socratic seminars where there's a high level prompt provided and then the kids pretty much run their own discussion around it. And then we use chat and chart and chalk talk, which is another strategy to encourage kids to think deeply about what they've read and then discuss it with their classmates. Along with math and reading services and enrichment opportunities at Sandy Valley, we also try to incorporate other enrichment opportunities as well. And these enrichment opportunities look like and take the shape of extended project-based learning time, both in reading and in math. And we try to incorporate a lot of creativity, creative expression, problem solving, real world application, research, all those great 21st century skills. We do try to plan out the projects so they are switching after a month or two to keep the novelty for the kids, but the kids are exposed and have the opportunity to participate in projects throughout the year as well.